Welcome aboard ServiceNow expeditions. We chart the platform universe one step at a time while trying to keep the journey simple. We have already visited the sectors of business rules, mandatory fields, and reference qualifiers, and we have a new topic. Guiding you today, Ivan, Ula, and Mike. So guys, what are we going to talk today about?
So in the last 13 sessions, you could witness how we built a new application called ServiceNow Expeditions, how we extended the form step by step. And I thought now it's time to recap and going a level deeper on the data side. I would like to talk about some basics in ServiceNow, how we connect data. There are different options, and at the end, we have always a goal in mind, what we want to achieve, any kind of report, any kind of data. And there are different tools you have in your basket, how to connect these data. And therefore, I would like to check what we have built so far, what we have, and how the different tables are connected with each other. Yeah, let's start with the view record we have in the ServiceNow Expeditions application.
So let me open one of our latest expedition records.
This is our form, and apart from basic data types like string or choice or date, we have these reference fields. Reference fields can be recognized with the eye icon right beside the field for so-called direct references. And below we have another reference-like field for the expedition crew. We will come back to this later. I'd like to start with a formal view on this topic. So not in being on the form in ServiceNow, but start with the beginning. That means having a look on the data scheme.
Yeah, let me switch to the drawer.
Only architects are drawing these kind of diagrams, but that's wrong. I always encourage my developers also to start sketching simple diagrams because it helps to discuss any requirements with the team or with the customers on a more visual level than only with words. Words are confusing, and such a diagram makes it clear. So on what I've done, we have these three main tables so far: expedition as a leading record, and we have two related tables: expedition task and expedition rating. And on the expedition record, we saw it before, we have this expedition leader and the expedition crew. And this is what I want to start today. For the other ones, I use Draw.io a lot. I don't know what you are using, Ivan and Ola. Do you have any other tools when diagramming something?
I was also using Draw.io at some point. After a while, we switched to Miro board. There are also some options to sketch, let's say, a process or a solution or a table structure. However, I prefer Draw.io a little bit better because it has a wider support of different other notations.
Yes, and it's free. You can use it online for free. There's also a Windows application I'm using most of the time, and it's supported, or there are many plugins in other tools. For example, if you are using Confluence for your documentation, there's also a free plugin, and you can extend or enrich your pages with diagrams of Draw.io and so on. I know that many are using it.
I hope this will not change after our video.
I hope so too. So let's focus on the two fields we have on our expedition records, the expedition leader and the expedition crew. And you see two outbound arrows. This is how I call them arrows because they are pointing from one record to another record. Now, from the expedition record, there is a reference, a kind of directed arrow to the sysuser table.
Maybe I would say from one table to another as well, right?
Yes, exactly. And you see at the beginning and at the end some notations. So I like to have a bubble, so a kind of, for the starting of the arrow, which is connected to the field. So it makes more clear where the arrow starts in which field. And at the end, you have the target, the arrow, the table this arrow is pointing to. And there are also numbers and characters, 1 and and N for the second arrow. One means that you can only reference to one record. That's clear. You have one single field.
Basically, how I remember it from my database development courses is that multiple expeditions can correspond only to one specific expedition leader.
Yes, that's the reason for the M at the beginning.
Yeah.
There's multiple. Basically, there's also a scenario possible where you replace this with a 1 instead of M, a 1, but it's a really rare case. One expedition leader can point to one user record. This is not the way ServiceNow is working out of the box.
I would put it the other way around, actually. One user can have one or many expedition records that they are the leader of.
That's the same.
It's the same. It's just different point of view.
But at the end, you have to decide for a general approach how to use the arrows and in which direction they are pointing. I use them in that way because one record is pointing to another record, and this is the direction, and therefore I use this direction for outbound connections. On the other side, we also have inbound connections. This is the scenario you have described, Ola. For the so-called related list below, you see the arrows are inbound. They are pointing to the expedition record. But this is we will highlight this some minutes later. Now let's have a look on this difference between the simple reference and the glide list. The glide list is only differentiated by this N at the end. So that means one expedition record can pointing to multiple users. So this is the difference. Simple reference is pointing to one record. A glide list is pointing to several records. So maybe we can switch back to the form. Yes, the expedition leader is a simple.
We can only select one user, right? And in expedition crew, we can start selecting multiple others.
Yes, so now we have several users in the expedition crew record. However, this glide list field is a bit special. It not only can contain sysids. So if you double click on, no, it's not possible because we disabled utils here. Exactly. One property of this field type is that the display values of the target record is displayed here. That's the reason why I have added an eye icon to the diagram. If you go back to the diagram, please. Then you see the name property of the sys user table, and right beside the type string, I've added this eye icon. This is my way to indicate this is the display value of the table. So whatever you are referencing in the expedition crew field, you get display this field, which is set as display value in the target table. Therefore, you see in the full name, because this name field is a so-called function field, which is concatenating the first name and the last name in the background for you. You don't need to care about this. Please go back to the form again. For the glide list, there are other special things to mention here. So what you don't see here is a so-called email field, because in the out-of-the-box configuration, each glide list field basically is able not only to reference to a user, but also include email addresses.
Because these are those fields that you use, for example, for watch list,
exactly.
watch list.
Yeah, but here in this case, we don't want these emails in the glide list field. So, and therefore there are some dictionary attributes you can use for controlling the behavior of such a glide list field. Can you please right click and then open the dictionary? So I already added some of the dictionary attributes here. Yeah, unfortunately, you need to go to the advanced view. It's always in the simple view. Yes, so there are 3 dictionary attributes. No adme means no icon for this, where you can add yourself to the list. This, basically, this is enabled. I just disabled this for demonstration purposes. Then the most important dictionary attribute is this no email equals true. It means you are not able to add email addresses. In our case, we don't need them. It could also break our implementation. If you are not prepared to have email addresses in such a glide list, we are expecting sysids. And if you accidentally added an email address, this could break your implementation. So therefore, I disable this with no email equals true. And this can group equals true is a special addiction attribute which controls the behavior in the list view. So therefore, let's go to the list view now and also try to find out the differences between these field types in the list view. Yes, so we see here in the list view expedition leader, and you can click on the empty space here, and you can edit this. But you cannot do this for the expedition crew. If you double click here on this field, you see that this element type is not editable from the list, because out of the box there's a system property which includes some field types which are not allowed to be editable in the list view. Fortunately, you can remove this and then make this field also editable. So there's a property, anything with list _ edit. Maybe we can go there.
Yeah, let's go there.
Yes, this one, glide UI list and so on. We need to change the scope, otherwise we're not able. So, and you see anywhere in the list, glide _ list, more on the right side of the field. Yes, there. Yes, there it is. If you remove this, you should be able to edit this in the list view again. Sometimes there's a requirement from customers exactly to do this. Allow me to edit this field in the list view. And now you know how to do this.
Let us double check if that works now.
Yeah.
And it is.
But this is a system property, so this is applied system-wide. Isn't there a possibility to set it to this particular glide list field?
Not to my knowledge. There's a support article which explains the system property, and I'm not aware of any table-related property or dictionary entry. Maybe someone of the users know this, and then they can add this in a comment below the video. I'm really curious to see whether there's a solution for this.
Looks like this one is a little bit of an overkill, because it's either all or nothing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I will add it back. Or basically the good idea probably is to revert to the out-of-the-box version.
Yeah. We have covered so far the simple reference for outbound references, expedition lead and expedition crew. And we saw in the diagram before that there are also so-called inbound references. So that means other tables are pointing to this expedition record. And you already have exactly this table below. And the reason why I placed them below the expedition record is because these tables, these relations can be used as so-called related lists. And related lists are placed in a form in ServiceNow at the end of a form. Now this is my reason why I diagram it that way. And we already have one related list, the expedition task. And there's another table we saw in the diagram, and we can configure this exactly here via configure related lists. And now let's stay here for a moment, because there is a difference. So we see two types of items here, which are labeled in a different way. Now we see attachments, crew members, and we also see this expedition rating with an arrow in between. So does somebody know the difference here?
The difference is that this marked one has a direct reference.
Exactly. They are connected via
expedition field. You can. Yes. I think as far as I remember, this automatic relationship. So this is the naming notation that they are using, which is showing you the source table and the table which is establishing this connection, this relationship.
Yeah, this is an out-of-the-box behavior. No one needs to build this. ServiceNow is providing you this for free. So we can add this here now. And now we have two related lists at the bottom of the form. What could be a reason to choose a glide list instead of a related list? No, because now we have, see what I'm talking about. And maybe we could also add a task. So I wouldn't say problem, but the challenge here often for users, customers, or whoever is using the form is to understand the difference. Because if you only look on this form, you might think that expedition tasks are an integral part of the expedition. Just like the same way, like the expedition crew members. You have a list of crew members, and you have a list of expedition tasks at the bottom of the form. But as we could see in the diagram, there is a difference in regards to the direction. So the expedition crew references are part of the expedition. They are stored in the field expedition crew as a comma-separated list of sysids. However, the expedition tasks are not part of the expedition record. They are only added here as a list by ServiceNow. They are pulled from another table because this table expedition task is pointing to the expedition record.
Exactly with this field.
This difference of modeling data has huge impacts for later appliances or implementations. So what could you think? Where are these differences to be recognized later? For example, let's talk about reports, because pushing data to ServiceNow is only half of the truth. At the end, we want to leverage the data and build something with the data. And reports are often the end of a larger chain of implementation and steps and processes. We want to pull some data from ServiceNow to any output format. What do you think? Can we see the expedition task in an export, for example? If you go to the list view, do we see here the expedition task?
No, we don't. Because
cannot,
it's not the part of this record and the table.
Exactly. So we cannot export the expeditions along with the expedition tasks, not in the standard way. We could export what you can see here, and we can export here the names of the expedition crew because they are part of the record.
Yeah, here we are.
But we can do something which is really cool, and it's not about exporting to an Excel, but visualize the task records also in this table. Do you know how we can add these expedition task records to this view here? So to include the expedition task records or any other related lists here in this list view, we can configure the table via list control. And display configuration, yes, and then scroll down. There's a checkbox hierarchical lists. And if you enable this, you now see the difference. Exactly. So, but this is also only possible for each individual record. And you have to decide. You see expedition task is pre-selected, but right beside this label, there is one of two lists. You see this?
Yeah.
And if you click on this, you are able to select
switch between
the related lists. So you can include the related lists here only in this list view, because ServiceNow is building this and adding this, but you cannot export this because now we have a so-called n-dimensional view. Not only dimensions you can export to an Excel file, now you have n dimensions. Yeah, this is what you can do with related lists. And I said n dimension, and that's the reason why you have to think about your data model right from the beginning, because if you want to include these records or part of the expedition task records in an overall report, you cannot do this with out-of-the-box means. Later we can, in later sessions, we can talk about how you overcome this challenge. But with out-of-the-box possibilities, but out-of-the-box means it's not possible.
Planning. Pen and paper. This is your friends. Coding is the smallest part of the whole solution implementation. Make sure that you know your solution on paper before and know how your data flow is going before you jump into the depths of development.
And as a last special tip, we can go back to the form. Maybe now it's the time to enable the ServiceNow plugin again, because this plugin comes with another special feature. Look at the expedition crew members. They are now not only linked, so you can click on them, they also have this cross mark. So you can also use this mark to remove this in a more easier way. Some time ago, I saw this and I was thinking, how the hell ServiceNow is doing this with property? And it took me 1 hour or so. And then I thought, what else could do this? And then I came to this idea. It was the ServiceNow plugin. So
it's in our lives for so long and so smoothly interconnected. So yeah.
How do you decide the relation? How do you process that?
Yeah, this is a good question. These related lists, or let's say these connections via child table to a parent table. In that case, the expedition is the parent table. Is a fundamental concept in ServiceNow. We see these related lists at the bottom of a form, mostly in all records in a table.
Yeah.
And therefore, whenever you have a record which is connected to a kind of child records, in that case, it's easy to understand. We have the expedition tasks. Many expedition tasks are related to one expedition. And because the expedition task record is completely different in regards to its properties, it has to be built in another table, because we need to define the assigned tool, the assignment group, the description. So this cannot be done with a simple glide list field, because a glide list field only contains concatenated list of sysids, which are also in another table. So therefore, in most of the cases, you will decide for this concept of related lists. That means other records are pointing to your record via inbound connections. I call them always inbound connections. Only in rare cases, you will decide for a glide list field, only in case you want to use the contents for some functionality purposes. For example, the mentioned watcher list. Now, I don't need to report on the watchers. I need the watch list to trigger notifications. So therefore, I can contain this in this field. It's easier to maintain this in one single field for the watchers than to build an individual table for this.
Yeah.
But at the end, yes, you always have to start from the beginning when modeling the data and think about this. What do you want to do at the end with your data?
That's also a tricky part many times.
Exactly. And then you have to explain to your customers that there are some impacts if you want to change the direction or to change the data model. And the best you can do in this moment is to open this diagram and explain these consequences with the help of some visualization instead of using words, because words are always confusing and can be misunderstood.
Well, guys, we hope the session today was very useful to you. We are only preparing to uncover the whole depth of the topic. And with all that being said, we will be glad to see you in our next sessions. And we wish you a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.